Okay. I've almost got my shit together. Hold on, guys. Alright, that one through there. Okay. Sorry, I'm running a little behind today. Story of my life. I had a real hard time getting up. I'm exhausted. So, we're here. Make sure all the audio's on. It looks like it. Okay. So when we last left off, actually we should probably do a quick recap here. So, painting with wool, we use roving or acrylic yarn that we have put back in its fluffy state instead of its strandy state. And we use needle felting tools to punch it, stab it, tuck it, whatever you wanted to say, into a piece of felt. Excuse me. And we here, I have been following along with Bob Ross painting tutorials and needle felting along with those. So, because I've, just thought it would be something different, something that I haven't seen anybody do. I've seen plenty of people follow along with his tutorials, with paint, with frosting, blindfolded, with red light on so that they can't see what color the paint actually is, and they had somebody else put it on the palette so that they didn't know what the colors were. And they were guessing the whole time. I've seen people do acrylic paint. I'm not sure if anybody's tried to do it with watercolor, though. That would be difficult with watercolor. You'd already have to know what was coming if you're going to do it with the watercolor, because, you have to do your lights first. You have to do it kind of in reverse of acrylic and oil for the most part. But yeah, so we're doing it with needle felting. We're working on season 3. This is the 5th one that we're doing from this season. There might be one that I skip from this season. Haven't fully made up my mind yet. There's the link to the full tutorial on YouTube for this episode that we're following, Distant Hills. The entire playlist of us working on this one and the others and all of the needle felting projects that we've done so far over the last year are on the YouTube channel. They're on the Nisey Needle Felts. I almost said needlepoint. That's something entirely different. My grandfather used to be totally into the needle pointing. He had cards that he set up with all of his threads that came in the kits that he bought all laid out and stuff. He never made anything on his own. It was always following a pattern, but he loved doing that. Anyhow, but yeah, we've got a playlist over on the YouTube channel for most of the live streams that we've done, whether they're art related or what have you. So if you miss anything here live, you can always go back to the YouTube channel and see what we've got going over there. And if you are there, don't forget to subscribe. It's free over there. It's not like subscribe is here where you have to pay. It's like YouTube's. It's like the YouTube version of the follow button over here. Alright, so we are working on Distant Hills. We're almost done Distant Hills, actually. I don't know if we're going to be done today. We probably won't finish today. It depends on how fast I get moving here, because I am tired. Whew. And we'll see. I haven't been a fan of this one. I've been saying that this whole time. The color palette was very strange that he used. He kind of did like an alizarin, crimson, Van Dyke brown, grayish tones. kind of soft and pastel-y, but then when he got towards the end, he kind of threw that out the window and then started throwing in like this big, bold, dark brown tree and this rock thing here, and it was weird. So I had to adjust some of the colors because, you know, it's hard to find yarn in those specific colors that he was using. I did my best. I've got some similar shades in my arsenal, but not that many. So I did have to make some color adjustment from what he used. And I don't know what happened when we were working on the trees on the edges here. Some reason the trees in this section bowed outward. I don't know what happened with the felt, but we'll clean that up with scissors. I don't have the dowel rods though that I need. I haven't gotten the money yet to get those. Money hasn't come in yet, so I don't know what I'm gonna do about that yet. I just don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. So, just prepping our fluff here, because there's going to be a tree coming in here, and we're going to watch that together. I do have the tutorial muted, so if you want to watch it in full, you're going to have to go over to the YouTube channel if you want it with sound. So, let's see here. He's got about 6-ish minutes left in this thing. So he's kind of got a tree coming in, kind of wobbly woo here. So it's gonna be, is he taking it off the canvas or is he stopping it about there? Alright, he's just thickening up the tree trunk here. No, that might be as tall as he's taking that branch. He adds a few limbs coming off of this main trunk. So he's kind of got like a weird wishbone V shape happening with this tree. He's taking that up, and then he's got like a little guy coming off of there. This season actually kind of annoyed me. I didn't think about it at first, but they did very few dead-on shots where it was pulled out where you could see the entire piece. Like, they did these zoomed in shots of the section that he was working in, but it seemed like every time they did a pulled out shot to show you, they were at this weird like 3/4 angle to it, and it was just a little bizarre for me. And I was just like, okay, sure. Is that all? Okay, so he's gonna see, like, we don't get a full shot of this guy, which is slightly annoying, but what can you do, right? Okay, so I think we're gonna start at the top on this one. Or we're gonna try to. Let's get our finger doodles on because we didn't get that far yet. Like I said, I'm still very much half asleep. Alright. So let's start stabbing our branches in here. And I mean, you can make it as tall as you want, as Bob says. You know, he's just trying to give us an idea of what we've got going on. and what we can potentially do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to replacing this PC soon, but I'm also not looking forward to replacing it because, oi, I'm gonna have to back up all of my music files before we do the big transfer of everything. And it's gonna be a lot, and redoing all my bookmarks and all of the things. I don't know, we might back up the bookmark list, because after I go through and get rid of the bookmarks I don't need anymore. And when I do get the new PC, I think we might do a live stream where I am doing art on the outside of the case of it. We gotta flamingo it up, because I couldn't find a flamingo case anywhere. I found a flamingo baby pink monstrosity, and I was like, no, I want a flamingo case. It doesn't exist as of right now. I couldn't find one. I was finding flamingo vinyl stickers, but at the same time I might just get some paint pens. I saw some off-brandy ones on Amazon. I was originally thinking I was gonna get Poscas, because you know they're like the go-to ones. But then I was seeing Poscas are so expensive. Like, I don't know if I really want to spend $40 on paint pens for like 3 specific colors that I might not use that much after this project, so I might just try one of the cheaper options that are higher rated on Amazon and see how that goes. Because I mean, some of the Amazon choice stuff isn't too bad. Some of it. So we'll see. Like I bookmarked a couple that were like 36 colors or something for like $20 or $30. So I was like, well, it's an option. That section. Just lightly scraping a couple of fiber strands up here just so I can thicken that section up, because that spot got a little thin for me. And this doesn't need to be straight, it can be a little wobbly. Here, you kind of probably want it to be a little wobbly. Because this kind of tree definitely wouldn't be telephone pole straight. And not many trees are telephone pole straight. You'll find a couple that are kind of like that, like some of your pine trees, maybe some of your redwoods. But, you know, let's face it, a lot of those trees are kind of wiggly. Not like wobbly where they're gonna fall down, but like wiggly as they grew. Trying to chase the sunlight and stuff. Do I need to get him?
Nope. Yeah.
Okay. I also had to get dinner started, so I was a little behind in getting my shit together, so I'm sorry about the late start today. We didn't start that late though. We were like 15 minutes late. I do apologize for that. I thought I was going to be up sooner because there was talk of the husband waking me up early to maybe take the doggo somewhere for doggo enrichment, and he ended up having to go to the store for my mom instead, and so I didn't set my alarm because I didn't know what time he was going to be getting me up, and I was like, oh, I'm sure I'll be up in time. There was talk of doing it earlier in the day, and I'm like, well, if I have to get dinner started and I have to get the art stream going, it's going to be before then. But we didn't end up doing that today. I hope the weather holds on Tuesday. I've got a lot planned for Tuesday. We need to get some yard work going here, and I think I might try to weed whack on Tuesday. We need to try to start the lawnmower to see if it's going to start, because we don't know if the battery went kaputs on us over the winter. He started it once over winter. I think he forgot to disconnect it, or he was digging through the shed for something and decided to reconnect it and start it. I don't remember what the circumstances were around that, but I know it did get started sometime during the middle of winter. And it did start, but we haven't tried to start it since because we haven't needed to. We need to go through our shed. We should have went through the shed before we did spring cleaning, but we didn't have time.
I don't think there's a whole ton to leave there either. I don't think there's a whole ton to get rid of there.
Oh, okay.
Because we'd gone through it and we've added some stuff, but not much.
Okay.
And it's mostly all just stuff that had to go into storage.
Okay.
Come on, Stitch.
But yeah, we definitely need to get the backyard and front, definitely the front yard mowed. The city's probably going to be getting busy about that soon. We've got like onion grass growing everywhere, and that is getting long with all of the rain that we've had recently. But we found the charger for the weed whacker. So we've got a battery operated one. And we found both batteries. There was one hanging out in a cubby in the kitchen for a while. I'm like, we need to get that charged. He's like, yeah. So I finally reminded him about that yesterday. And we got those two batteries charged up. I can handle the weed whacker. I don't like it, but I can handle it. I can't handle the lawnmower. That's too loud, too vibrating, and it's just too much sensory for me, and I just like, no. Can't do it. And I'm afraid of it, because, you know, they're dangerous. It scares me. I'm not afraid to admit that it scares me. It's a dangerous piece of equipment. Plus, we don't have like a regular push mower. We have this monstrosity, almost professional grade ride-on lawnmower that his mom's sister, so one of his aunts, talked her into getting because she was working for a place that sold lawnmowers and tractors and stuff, and like the thing's got a goddamn roll bar on the top of it, and I'm just like, we don't have that much property. We have like under an acre of land here. Well under. Why do we need this big ass expensive lawnmower? I mean, it is a lot with a push mower in the summer because it gets really hot here. But like, the whole thing takes up the majority of our shed. It's where we're, like, climbing over it. But, that tree trunk's really hard to see over the rocks there. Or that rocky ground. I'm not sure if this tree trunk gets highlighted. You can kind of see the bottom of it. Kind of. Alright, so we got another thing coming in here. But, I've got seeds I need to get planted. I've got flower boxes that need to get cleaned up. I can't plant yet, though. I want to make sure we're done with these freezes. Because I think one night this week is supposed to dip back down into, like, the mid-30s, and I'm like, are we really done with the freezing, though? Are we? Because you're not making up your mind here. Alright, so this guy is kind of, like, in here-ish, I think. Like, that's probably not too bad of a placement. You can really see how much it bowed out on the edge line there. That's bugging me something awful, but we'll try to clean that up when everything is all said and done here. Because this extra on the edges is gonna get trimmed. I'm gonna leave the piece at the top and the bottom though, because that's how I'm gonna hang it and weight it. I just don't have the dowel rods yet. I need to get some split dowels because I'm gonna take this piece at the top and at the bottom after we cut the edges off, and then I'm gonna do the dowel rod, and I might paint that split dowel rod white. Maybe. And we'll attach that. We'll sandwich the felt in between the two pieces, and then, you know, we'll get some twine and attach that as our little hangy-do. I think that might be one of the solutions for hanging these guys, because I've been trying to, you know, do them in like a standard frame size, but that's a little difficult when you're working on it and they shrink a little bit, and I don't have any mats on hand that I can frame these guys with, and I only have like a cheap dollar store frame. I'm also in the middle of, I've got a pen and watercolor piece that I recorded that I forgot I recorded, and I need to get that edited. But I don't know if I'm gonna wait on editing it until I get the new PC, because I might have to change my editing software. Although it's probably still gonna be a couple of weeks before we can order the new PC. I don't even know what we're ordering. I wasn't happy. This is an HP, and I wasn't happy with it. I really got turned off, like I said before, when I got it and immediately was getting blue screens of death, and then had to fight with them on the phone for 2 hours about, I really think this might be a RAM issue, and they're like, no, it's the motherboard. I'm like, okay, that's great and all, but can you also check this RAM stick, because it's not registering. It's the motherboard. That's great, but could you? Yeah. And we even put an extra note in, totally disregarded. There was it's not like there wasn't a line. There was a line for additional comments, and we put on the additional comments line, hey, the stick of RAM was also not registering. Could someone please check it? We think the stick's bad. Nobody checked it. We marked the stick in a way that we would know if they swapped the sticks out. They didn't. Alright, that's a little thin in there. So when I got, like, I had the PC for like 3 or 4 days. We contacted customer support. They're like, oh, we're gonna have to send you a box and shipping labels. You're gonna have to send it back to us because it was under the warranty stuff. And we're like, alright. I had the box, like I said, I had the computer under a week. It was like 3 or 4 days. Get the box a couple days later, send it out. In the meantime, I had swapped back to my old one. Thank goodness I still had the old one. Even though that was sort of on its last legs. And get it back like a week later. Turn it on, then a couple hours, blue screen of death. Oh look. It's the RAM stick. So, wasn't happy. Really frustrated. I'm like, really, y'all? We asked you to look at this while you had it. I mean, it had to go back to the company because it was under warranty, so it's not like we could just schlep down to Best Buy and be like, hey, y'all didn't check the thing after we asked you to check the thing. And I refused to buy a brand new RAM stick with the RAM being under warranty. I'm like, no. You fix it. I just spent over $1,200 on this. I did not want something defective. So, you know, that's how that goes. I used to get Dells and never really had a problem. Husband's not a real big fan of Dell. And it's been ages since I had a Dell, so I don't know what their state is, if they're even still going. But I don't know what we'll end up with. We'll see. So we're just kind of working on getting our tree put together here. I'm also in the process of working on a gouache painting. And I am trying to record that. I'm only like a third of the way done on that guy though. I haven't had a whole lot of time or energy to sit down and work on him, because by the time the end of the day rolls around, I'm tired. And this past week I've just been like mentally just wanting to, you know, not do anything, not think about anything. By the time the end of the day rolls around, because it's a long day getting up. I mean, I'm sure people have longer days than I do, but for me, what's going on with me. It's a long day for me. And I'm trying to figure out, you know, what the heck we're doing for dinner, getting that started, or at least out thawing, and then, you know, pop it into here, and then, you know, doggos, and laundry, and dishes, and anything else that needs to get taken care of, errands. I'm sure people have longer days, you know, everybody that has kids and full-time jobs on top of it and stuff. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm just saying, for me and my situation at the moment, it's a lot. I'm going on the stress of trying to get bank matters dealt with and all the other matters dealt with from my dad passing away and everything, so it's been a lot these past couple of weeks. It's just been kind of like go, go, go for the past couple of years with everything. All of the stress piling up on top of each other, so I'm tired. Plus, I don't sleep. Horrible insomnia most of the time. And then there was a weird smell that kept bothering me last night, and I'm like, what is this smell? What is happening? I couldn't fucking place it, and then I was getting upset about it. Where are we gonna put you? Not really bendy, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm sure people have much harder, longer days than me. I know they do. I'm also trying to make sure my mom is... I've moved from being my dad's keeper to my mom's keeper now. She's nowhere near as sick as he was. But she's still been having a bit of a rough time. I mean, they got married a year before I was born. So what? 81, 3, so I'll be 42 this year. So they were married... They would have been married this year 43 years. A long time. Hey, Zorts. You know, I feel like this should be a little bit thicker. I think that might be a little too thinned out. How are things in Zortsville today? Hope everything is going alright. Oh yeah, and then I made Russell cookies last night. I really didn't feel like it, but he asked me, so I was like, alright. Oh hey, I'm gonna need that file and the video.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry, I was talking to the husband. I need the live stream copy of his Planet Zoo from last night, so we can put that on the playlist on the YouTube channel, so that way people won't have to bounce back and forth between both channels, because it's gonna be, there's like chunks missing here. Since we started out with it being on the same thing, I didn't want to confuse people and then suddenly not have it together kind of situation. Let me trim that guy up. You doing good? Good. Hey, Bozzies. Boz is here. Hello, friends. Sorry I got a little bit of a later start today. Not that late. I was only 15 minutes late, which is not bad for me, by the way. still, I was hoping to get started early, and I thought we were going to be starting early today. But didn't quite work out that way. I thought I was going to be up early. I thought we were taking the doggos for doggo enrichment today. Because they seemed to have a good time at doggo enrichment a couple of days ago. Smelling all of the trees and peeing on all of them and, you know, having a good doggo time. But, plans kind of changed, and I didn't know the plans changed until I woke up. And I'm like, what time is it? And the husband's like, it's like 12. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, where are you going? He's like, oh, I just got back from the store. I was like, okay. And I figured a few minutes later he'd be like, come on, let's go. And he didn't. And I completely passed the fuck back out. The hell? Was that a kid or an animal? That's a plane. It might have been a kid. The kids that live near us do this like high-pitched squealy squeak at times when they're outside. And it's amazing the sounds small children can make. I don't have kids. But, it almost sounded like a dog whining for a second, and I'm like, what is happening? Where are our doggos? Russell heard Zuzu howl for the first time the other day. He usually howls when Russell's not here. So Russell's never had the opportunity to hear it. Because he doesn't normally do it. He only usually does it when he's upset and he thinks he's alone. And I'm the only one, well, I think my mom's experienced it a couple of times. But I'm usually the one that hears it. And it is so haunting. It almost sounds like a stuck tornado siren. It is so loud, and it's just like so blood running cold in your veins, and it's just like, what the fuck was that? And it's Zuzu howling in the other room. Like, I'm sitting here, and I heard a vague noise, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck is Zuzu's problem now? And I'm thinking I was slowly starting to pull my headphones off to go see what his deal was, because there was no reason that he should have been howling. And all of a sudden, Russell just, he, like, bolts straight up in his chair, and he's, like, running to the front door, and he's, like, whipping the door open. He's like, did you hear that? Do you hear that? And I'm like, hear what? And I'm, like, pulling off my headphones, and I'm listening harder, and I'm like, yeah, that's Zuzu. And he goes, what? I said, that's Zuzu howling. He's like, oh my god. And he went to go run to check on the dog, and the dog's sitting on my mom's bed howling. He was mad that she was outside instead of inside scratching him. He got pissed off and upset. He'll howl before he comes to look for somebody else. I'm like, buddy, you're not here by yourself. What is your deal? You know I'm in the other room. You saw me a few minutes ago. Like, my parents' room is, like, one room over. Like, we share a same wall. I mean, you have to walk through the dining room to get to the hallway to get there, but we share a wall. And I'm just like, buddy, what are you doing? Dog is crazy. We're just getting some more branchy bits here. Alright, so we've got this guy here. And I mean, it's archery. We can do however many branchy bits we damn well please. This guy kind of is chilling. Maybe about here. So we'll see about getting that in there. And how's everything in Bosland today? Hopefully it's good. I think the caffeine's finally starting to kick in. I hope. I don't do coffee, so more coffee for the rest of you coffee fiends. I don't like the taste of it, and the one like mocha latte thing I tried gave me such a headache, and I was like, oh no. That's okay. Not too bad, day off, pretty much never left the couch today. That sounds like an awesome day off, I gotta say. Hiding from everyone, not moving from your spot. That sounds like a good day. Like, some people would call me lazy. And maybe I am a little bit when it comes to some things. But the people that call me lazy, I'm like, motherfucker, have you worked retail? When I was working retail, they would call me lazy when I'd get home. I'm like, you haven't worked retail. Like, don't fucking tell me I'm being lazy when I've had to jump every time somebody else so much as looks in my direction. Like, it was, depending on what kind of retail you're working, it's like a fucking full-time gym membership where you're like, go, like you're doing like fucking non-stop. I swear there were some days when I was merchandising in the craft store, because my department was completely opposite side of the store from the front registers, and I was first called to register. I swear there were some days I must have walked 3 or 4 miles a day just between walking back and forth to register. You got involved in a situation with a coworker last week and it turned into this whole thing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm just like, just stop. Like, front end was a little better on my joints, where I wasn't. See, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because, you know, you get used to the amount of calories that you're burning when you're moving constantly, and then the calories that you're burning from the stress and, you know, not being able to eat that well. At least for me, I'm a very stressy critter. And have quite a deal of my own anxiety, not quite to the husband's level, but it's not that far below him. And I'm a very broken critter in my own respects, but you get used to that. And then, you know, merchandising was its own thing, but I could go in the stockroom for a minute and just be like, okay, I'm looking for something, and just kind of like try to find the thing, but, you know, take a couple extra minutes of just not dealing with anybody for a minute, and it's a little bit quieter back there. Our stockroom was not exactly up to probably OSHA standards, though, at times. When we got warehouse deliveries 3 days a week, they had to come in through the front door. So if you got there at like 6 in the morning, 5:30, you would see pallets being dropped off at the front door, and the managers popping the auto front door things off the track, like the emergency thing, and opening them so that they would open wide enough to bring the pallets in. And then they would drop the pallets in like a horseshoe shape around the store, because that's kind of how the store was laid out, like front registers at the, you know, up near the windows by the door. and then the rest of the store was kind of laid out in like a squared off U, and then you had like aisles here, aisles here, aisles here, and then you had some aisles in the middle. So they would drop the pallets off around in here, and then whoever was on pallet team on warehouse days that had to come in at like 6 a.m., they had to come in and they had to start breaking down all of the pallets and delivering all of the merchandise off the pallets to the respective departments where it was supposed to go, and they put it on the back ends of the aisles so it was out of the way and it wasn't in visual range from the main aisle. And all of that had to be broke down and delivered to all of the departments before like 8:45. All the pallets had to be off the floor. The store opened at 9 o'clock at the very latest, but those pallets had to be off the motherfucking floor by the time the store opened so nobody tripped and fell and things. And I'm just like, you know, our stockroom was so full of shit, you could not get a pallet through the aisle. My aisles were so crammed full of shit, and a couple of other people's. It wasn't just my aisle, there was some other people's aisles too, and it wasn't even all of my stuff in the stockroom. I also inherited a mess when I took over merchandising the department, so I didn't do all that. You had to like jungle gym climb over shit to get to stuff in some of the aisles in the stockroom. Like, we were climbing on shelves to climb over other stuff, because if you tried to pull the stuff out of the way that was blocking the floor in the aisle, you'd be back there for 2 hours. And you'd probably get lost and need a Sherpa. Like, it was ridiculous. And then I think they got in trouble. Because I think there was an inspection, and they're like, yeah, no, this needs to be clear, and this needs to be clear. They were still dropping pallets off when I left out front, but stockroom manners got a little more diligent, shall we say. Our fixture room was always a fucking disaster because nobody would keep it clean. And the funny part is, management, yeah, there was only managers and stock were the only ones allowed to do cardboard bales. And we had a fuck ton of cardboard, especially on warehouse day. So if we needed a bale and nobody was there to do it, it just started, you know, we started collapsing it and stacking it. We're like, okay. So we only had the one cardboard baler. And then, you know, all of the trash from around the store, stock would collect it, and stock didn't have keys to the back door. They had to get management to open back door and like the delivery bay. So, you know, trash didn't always get taken out in a timely manner. Trash would get collected from the whole store and just thrown up against the back delivery door, and whenever they opened it, trash would then usually be thrown outside to wherever it had to go. It was a fucking hot mess. But our fixture room was a disaster. They would spend like 2 days, stock and a manager, cleaning the fixture room, reorganizing it. Okay, this length of peg hook in this bin, this length of peg hook in that bin, extra peg backboards here, this kind of shelf here, end cap shelves here, this length, that length, you know, clear plastic display bins here. Like, they would reorganize. It was beautiful. You could walk in. I kid you not, 3 days later, shit was thrown all over the floor. Stuff was falling over. You could not walk into the room again. And they kept it locked. So the only ones that normally had access to that room was management and stock. And I'm like, what the motherfucker are y'all doing? Like a shelf display would get taken down. And instead of putting the shelves away neatly right then and there, because everything was so hectic, it just kind of got stacked on the floor, and they're like, I'll get it later, and then later never happened. And then other people, if they were given the key to go grab something real quick, it's like, I don't have time, can you go get me this? And then I'd like, the one day they're like, well, we need this, and I'm like, that's great, but I can't walk into the room. And I tried, and I was like stepping on shelves, and I almost slipped and fell. So we're not doing that. And they're like, what do you mean? We just cleaned that. And I'm like, well, it ain't clean now, so I don't know what the fuck to tell you. it was great. It was just like, this I'm like, this isn't safe, y'all. You always needed a bail, whether it's 4 a.m. or 10 p.m. Yeah, the bailer's always full. Always. So they ran their mouth, always bitch, and I told them to stop talking to me because they could cause trouble, and they reported me, thus causing trouble and proving my point. Jesus Christ. It's like, just stop. Because, yeah, you know, like, Target's, like, really strict, right? Like, they were stricter than where I was working. Like, we got yelled at if we were out of our area. Like, even if I was helping a customer and I had to take them over to one of, like, the center of the store to, if they were looking for ribbon or they were asking about a bow or something, or a flower arrangement or something specific, and I didn't know, or like a wedding something or other, so that really wasn't my department. So I would take them over to the middle of the store where we had our flower arranging people, and it's where our ribbon merchandiser was usually, and our flower department merchandiser and our flower arranger. So I'm like, hey, she's looking for this. I've got a customer in a couple aisles over, and if the one manager who was a real hard ass saw you over there, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm asking a question for a customer. Chill the fuck out. They're a couple aisles over. I mean, you couldn't curse at the management, but I'm just like, I've been here 30 seconds. I'm trying to find out something for a customer. Can you, like, just not? It was horrible. It went off the rails and said all the clicks are going down and Target's going down, and it sounded like, yeah. Because I know when I was at AC Moore, our Target was over near where our Michaels was, and our store manager was always up in Michaels. Like, a couple days a week, he was over there price comparing he'd always come back with a legal pad with all kinds of notes all over it and shit. And yeah, I guess sketches of how they were doing displays and stuff. And different products that they had that we didn't have that he wanted to take stuff to, because he was trying to move up the management chain. He did end up becoming district manager. Was the one that had anger management issues. And trust me, a lot of us breathed a sigh of relief when he was no longer the head store manager in that location, because, oh buddy, that was some trauma working for him. Talk about an abusive relationship you couldn't get out of, not physically, mentally. Like, it's your job. You either had to quit or fucking cope at that point. He'd be fine, and then he'd start screaming, and I'm like, oh. Like, especially when we had vendor shows, he did not handle anger well leading up to the vendor shows. Like, no expense was spared coming into these vendor shows. If we had a hole, like, no holes. That was no holes for like 3 weeks before the vendor show. You order extra. You need to fucking second day air it. We need it here pronto. As soon as that order gets sent, you need to be on the phone to the company, ask them if they got the order yet and that they need to expedite it. And I'm like, they're not gonna do it. Some companies would. Other companies, they're like, yeah, no, we can't do that without management approval. Are you a manager? And I'm like, no, I'm the merchandiser. I was told to call you by the manager. Well, we need to talk to the manager. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. And it's like, yeah, they're not gonna. And then you'd get the order, right, if they did finally expedite it, and the shit that was missing is the shit that didn't get sent. And then they're like flipping out tenfold and yelling, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? If they're out of stock at the company, I can't put it on the shelf. I'm like, there's gonna be a motherfucking hole. And I'm like, well, fill it with something else. And I'm like, no, they need to see the hole, don't they? They need to know to get on the company's ass about what's not coming in. And they're like, okay, we've made a note of it. But for right now, we can't have a hole right there on the end of the aisle. Fill it with something else. And I was, oh, that burned my ass so bad. I'm like, no, it doesn't go there. I'm like, this is out at the supplier. Nobody in the company is going to have this item if it's selling. So, like, it's counterproductive. They need to see the holes, but you want me to fill the hole. Like, it was fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. I'm like, makes sense. It's god awful. Yeah, this person's best passed around the store because no one wants them, and they're the dumb one. They're one dumb enough, or I'm the one dumb enough, or the balls enough to actually confront them. Yeah, we had someone that liked to run their mouth at Walmart. Walmart, I was getting flashbacks of AC Moore, to be perfectly honest. Basically, it's all, yeah, it's basically all you know. Yeah, like, I was actually gonna try to work at Hobby Lobby until I found out things about Hobby Lobby, because Hobby Lobby was new to me when we moved down here. I'd never heard of them before. They weren't in New Jersey when I had been there. I'm just gonna advance the tutorial a little bit and see where we're at now. But, like, we had, okay, so we're doing the grassy things. Okay. So it's a little bit of the yellow ochre color. I might stick a little bit of spring green in there, or maybe like a toned down green. I have to look at my greens real quick. But, can we get a... He's not gonna highlight the tree? Okay. Maybe he does later. But, oh, what the fuck's I saying? So, we had one person at AC Moore that just fucking drove me, well, there were three, actually, that just drove me up the motherfucking wall. I just wanted to throat punch. And, all three of them were ones I had to interact with on a daily basis. And I was just like, oh god, please make it stop. They made, when I had merchandised the kids department, and then I transferred to a different store in a different state for like 6 months, because I thought I was going to live there now, and to get away from the stressful situation at home. And then, the person I was living with, changed their mind about some of the things they said that weren't a problem before I moved in, that then became a problem because I guess she just got tired of dealing with me. And because I told her, I'm like, I don't have a car, I don't drive. And she's like, okay, that's fine, I can take you to work, or my boyfriend can take you to work and pick you up. I'm like, you're sure? She goes, yeah, it's not a problem. I'm like, you're sure? This is an everyday thing. Like, I have to be to work by this time of day, and this is the time I get done. She's like, yeah, it's not a problem. And I'm like, okay. And we didn't live close enough where I could get a bike and just bike to work. And I'm like, all right. And then as time went on, she's like, yeah, you need to get a car and car insurance, and I'm going on a school trip, and I'm going to be gone in Canada for like a week or a weekend. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get to work? You're going, your boyfriend's on the same choir, and your other friend that's been taking me to work at times is on the same choir too. All three of you are going to be out of town. Well, the boyfriend's mother could probably take you like 1 or 2 days. And I'm like, see, you didn't explain this to me, and I would have told you that would have been a problem. Because there wasn't even public transportation I could take to get to work. Like, I would have taken the bus, but there was no bus to there from where we were. And I was like, great. But when I came back, so I merchandised the artificial flower department up there for like 6 months. And the department was actually starting to turn a profit as I was learning the department. So the store manager up there was ecstatic. And made a big deal of it the one meeting. He's like, oh, guess what? We've actually had positive sales this month in this department. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just pretending, like, fake it until you make it, pretty much. And, hang on, let me grab this other green. Greens like look too bright to me. Well, that one's way too bright. Way too bright. Alright, I guess we'll go with this one. You looking at the birds? Little's in the window. Like, this one's like way too bright. We'll try to make this one work. We'll mix it in. But when I came back, they threw me on front end. Because I couldn't have my department back. And I'm like, alright. Somebody else was doing it then. Even when that person left, I'm like, can I have my department back? No, you'd have to take a pay cut. That's fine. Can I have my department back? No. We need you on front end. I'm like, but I'll take the pay cut. I want my department back. I don't want to do front end anymore. It's driving me crazy. It's killing me. No, we need you on front end. I was like, motherfucker. But, I had to deal... 2 of them were fellow front end people. And, the other one was a cashier. Oh, my word. Y'all? I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't understand. Maybe I never will. Maybe I'm not meant to understand. But how on earth do you leave someone as your lead customer service person doing returns and purchase orders and all of the things on the 9 to 5 shift when they're constantly fucking up? And your entire shift that you're running, when you're running the closing shift and you relieved them, all you're doing is fixing their fuck-ups. How? How are you still front end? How are you still employed? I kid you not. From the time that person left in the afternoon, like they left at 5, I came in at 1:30. I had to go to lunch at, I came in at, was it 1 or 1:30? 1:30. I started my shift at like 1:30. It was like 1:30 to 9:30 or something. I came in. I had to go to lunch or my dinner before I had to go and be back before 4:30. So, and if there was 2 of us doing closing that night on front end, we both had to do this. And if I had a cashier that came in that was doing the same shift as myself and the other front end person, all of us had to go and be back from our dinner before 4:30, before shift change. It was fucking wild. So from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. depending on what time we were closing in the year, what time of year it was, I was doing nothing but correcting her mistakes. Just, what the fuck? Like, we had kids club thingies where if it was the kid's birthday, they got like a little $5 gift card deal. She would apply it and we kept the card, right? Like, we had to run the card through our printer showing that it was redeemed. And then I'm looking at the receipts and then she undid the redeem. And I don't know how the fuck she did it. And I'm like, what? She, like, would undo the redeem. And I'm sitting there staring at it, trying to make sense of the register receipt. I kid you not, one of the receipts she did, it was so fucked up. I thought the customer was trying to scam us. Like, I had so confused looking at it. It was a redeem. The redeem was undone. So the $5 was put back on the bill. Then it was done again. And then it was undone again. And I'm like, it went on like 4 different times. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? She wasn't training anybody that day either. And I'm like, so it's not like the trainee had fucked up something. It was her. And I'm like, what? I'm like, this doesn't compute. Like, it took me 10 minutes to fucking figure out the receipt, and it shouldn't take that long. And I was just like, what the hell? Because the customer was really confused, and they're like, I'm looking at the receipt when I got home, and she's like, I don't understand it. And I'm like standing there looking at it with her, and I'm like, that makes 2 of us, hon. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is either. And I'm like looking at it, like, I'm like, I think we owe you $5. So, it was god awful, and, like, and then I kept getting yelled at, because we couldn't have more than 3 people in a line. If there was 3 people in a line, we had to get another register open. And I'm like, you do understand that when my first call for register is in the back corner of the store, and the furthest away from the registers, by the time they get up here, there's not going to be a line anymore, right? Normally. 3 people to a line and another line having to be open was a ridiculous thing. Because some people had like 2 things, and they were dealt with by the time that person came up. And I was just like, I cannot tell you. I was first called when I was merchandising that department. Y'all, I wasn't exaggerating when I said I think there were some days that I walked like 4 miles. I would get up front. They would be paging me to register. I'd be like, here we go. It's like 9:15, and I've got freight piled taller than my head, and I'm 5 feet on every single end of the aisles in my department. I'm like, here we go. Heavy freight day. And they're going to be calling me up front. The lady in the department next to me didn't come in till 10. And I'm like, okay, sure. She had, like, the weirdest ass hours, and she was a great person and all. Like, I wasn't mad at her. I was just mad at the fact that she had one of the smallest departments in the store, but yet I was first call and had way more freight than her on a daily basis. And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. And the one day, I kid you not, every time I got up front, the line was gone. There was like 2 people in line. And I looked at this chick at front end, and I'm like, really? Why am I up here? Oh, there was a line. I'm like, you could have canceled me. And then, like, that yo-yo shenanigan shit went on for like an hour. And then I had to stay up there because the lines went crazy, and I'm up there, and I'm up there, and I'm up there. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, guys, I need to go to lunch. Like, when I was merchandising, I was last to go to lunch for some fucking reason on our side of the store, even though I was not the last one that came in. And it was getting to be like 2 o'clock. 15-minute break started at 3. And I'm like, I need to go to lunch. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're waiting for so-and-so. And I'm like, I need to go to lunch. I have not had anything to eat. I've been here since 8 o'clock this morning. I need to go to lunch. Like, I don't feel well. I need to go to lunch. And, it was god awful. And then when I came back from lunch, they were like, you need to get on register. And I'm like, I need to put my freight up. And they're like, you need to get on register. I'm like, okay. Well, warehouse orders were this was an order day too. Warehouse orders were supposed to be done by 3 p.m. And I'm stuck on register. And one of the management comes up there and they're like, did you get your orders yet? And I looked at him. I said, does it look like I got my orders yet? I said, I've been up here all day. Or they're like, why aren't your orders done? I'm like, have you not been hearing them call me to register all day? You've been in the same building as me. And then they're like, why isn't your freight done? I just walked through your department. You've got freight everywhere. I'm like, yeah, no shit. I was like, hello? Have you not heard them calling me to register all day? I know we've been in the same building. I know you've been in the office. You can hear the PA in the office. I was livid that day. I'm like, really? They had to tell them up front to stop calling me for like the next 2 hours so I could get caught back up. It was, I was just like, fucking bullshit. I'm like, you're not, I was like, no, see, you're not gonna give me hell when you've been hearing me called up front. You're always like, customers first, and then when customers come first, you're not allowed to bitch me out for not getting shit done if I've been trapped on register. It's not like I've been dicking around walking in circles all day. Like, no. Why don't you rip into your regular cashier, who is your cashier of the day, who's standing up here, running her mouth, backing up her line, when, I mean, there's being friendly to a customer, and then there's like having a 20-minute long conversation with one customer when you finish checking them out 3 minutes in. Like, what? This isn't coffee social tea hour. Like, yeah, hi, how are you? Did you find everything okay? Great. Awesome. Here is your total. Thank you for your payment. Here are all of your bags. I've double checked. I don't have any more of them. You have a great day. You don't need to stand there and have... It's not like you're a streamer. You don't need to stand there and have a 45-minute long conversation about nothing. And I'm just like... Girl, you need to... Let's go. Like, we weren't timed or anything, but it was excessive. Like, when I was, oh yeah, getting back to that thing, when I was first working up at AC Moore, they're like, yeah, you know, they're like, Target's a bitch to work for. And I'm like, really? They're like, they time you doing everything. They time you for how long it takes you to put a piece of freight up. They time you for how long it takes you to do this. They time you to take you how long to do that. And if you don't do it within a certain amount of time that they decide is what you need to be doing it at, they'll fucking fire your ass. And I'm like, oh god. I'm like, but what if you have a problem and it, you know, and for some reason it's taking longer to get the thing done? They're like, they don't care. I was like, boy. And I was like, that was like terrifying. I'm like, well, I don't want to work for Target. But, you know, Walmart wasn't much better. We weren't necessarily like being hardcore timed at Walmart. At the one that I was at a Walmart grocery strictly. I was at a neighborhood market. I wasn't at a super center. But two of the 3 managers, assistant managers, were fine. You know, you showed that you were trying to get done. You were busting your ass. It wasn't your fault if shit got ordered extra and nobody knew how to fucking order, and, you know, you're doing your best. The one manager, though, he was fucking just no. it was his daily pleasure. I guess it's how he got off. Where it was his life mission to try to make people cry and fuck with them and see how far he could push them to the breaking point. Like,
and that's not metaphor. He's flat out said that before.
Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. He literally said that. He's part of the reason why I quit. I couldn't do it anymore. Not with him. They were rotating them through night shift, so this manager would do X amount of months, then the next amount of months, the next amount of months. Well, he done fucked up on day shift, and I think he ran an electric pallet jack, that had a full-ass heavy pallet on it over an employee's foot and broke their foot. And as punishment, he got put on nights permanently. At least that's the story we were told. I full on believe it. At one point they thought he was partaking in some not exactly over the counter, but over the counter, wink wink, nudge nudge, mood stimulants. Wasn't he, there was a rumor going around, I don't know how true it was, that he was, either methane.
Oh, yeah, that.
Or heroin.
The way you were saying, wink, wink, over the counter shit.
Well, I mean, you can't, yeah. And, because he would move at, like, inhuman speeds at times, and I'm like, I kid you not, they put me in, I was having problems, really bad problems with my lower back while I was there, but, like, I would have problems where, when I'm walking, if I take too large of a step, I'll get, like, a shooting pain, like, from, like, my tailbone into my, like, my hip butt area. And, as long as I didn't take too large of a step, it wasn't too big of a deal. It would plague me more than others, but, you know, I was getting work done and stuff. And I fucked it up real bad when I was on break. I was out of the building, I was in the car, so, you know, nothing on camera. It was a 15-minute break. I had, lowered the seat back because I was having a rough night, and I think when I went to raise the seat back up in the car to sit up, because Russell was working there at the time too, so we'd taken our break in the car, something shifted extremely unpleasantly and got worse from there. But, you know, can't prove it, so, and I wasn't in the building, so I couldn't workman's comp it. Not that I trust workman's comp doctors anymore after my whole neck situation anyway, but, that was in a different state too, but I still don't trust them. And, so I was having trouble, and then I threw my back out entirely after that, where I couldn't, like, even get out of bed to go to the bathroom. Russell had to help me out of bed. And it was slowly, I could function, but it still wasn't right. Like, it felt like a disc had slipped or something, to be perfectly honest, because I moved when he was helping me get out of the car and something clicked. And, like, the pressure got better, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, alright, because I was, like, one day away from having to go to the emergency room or doctor about it, and it fixed itself, and I was like, alright, that's fine. It still was never quite right. Well, they had me in I was in GM, I think, when I started, and then I moved over to dairy because it was a pay increase. And then they I requested to be moved out of dairy because I couldn't take working with the slug who I was with anymore, because she spent more time being drunk at work and drinking her vodka out of her water bottle than and texting than she did working. And she's like, I don't know why you're so upset about getting the work done. They're gonna send people over to help us. And I'm like, no, they're not. They told us they were short-staffed tonight. I'm not getting in trouble for the shit not getting done. like, fucking work. And she was, like, the store hoe, and I'm not exaggerating. She was, because everybody would tell me. I had one guy that was telling me all of the things, and I'm like, I don't know why you're suddenly telling me all of the things that I didn't ask to hear, but okay. Sure, I guess. And, so I got tired of working with, so I'm like, I'll take the pay cut. You gotta get me out of this department. I can't do it anymore. So they put me in regular grocery, and I was put on the heaviest regular grocery aisle of all cans. I think the only thing that was the next heaviest, I think, was the water aisle, and then maybe pet food. And I'm like, oh my god. And I'm busting my ass. There was a lot of freight. Like, I am going as fast as I can, because the cans were difficult. They had to be in the stupid little trays, and I had to rip the fronts off just so, and they were fussy with how they had to go in, and I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to get the shit done. There was a lot of freight. I'm working as hard as I can, and he keeps coming up to me, and he goes, this needs to be done by 2. My aisle had to be done by 2. He goes, this has to be done by 2. He goes, you don't have that much. And I'm like, the fuck I do, motherfucker. And, I just kept looking at him and, like, just glaring at him. And I'm like, uh-huh. I get done. Because 2 was our lunch break. The whole store, except for one cashier, and management would sometimes sneak back right at 2 and sort of take their break, but they were still on the clock. Because, you know, management. So there'd be like one person, no, there'd be like 3 people left on the floor. The people that unloaded the truck went early too, that's right. So there'd be like 3 people on the floor, still working. Everybody else went to lunch. I get done at 10 after 2. I'm bringing the trash back to the baler. And the cardboard and stuff. I'm like, alright, I'm done. He goes, you're 10 minutes late, I could have written you up for that. And I just stood there. I was having such a bad day, and I just stared at him. And I had just had such enough. Like, he was riding my ass since I walked in the door. And I'm just like, why are you giving me... I just looked at him. I'm like, you know what? I'm one of the few people that didn't dick around in there and tried to get shit done. Like, there would be other people that are like, you're making us look bad because you're actually doing work. And, like, they would just be dicking around half the night. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm getting paid to work. I need to work. I'm not here to dick around all night. I just want to do my shit. I want to go home. And I'm like, just looking at him, like, you're riding my ass for working. Instead of 3 or 4 other people who dick around and hide in the corners of the store and are taking like 3 hours to put out a pallet of paper towels, which should take a half an hour at the most, of paper towels and toilet paper. And I'm just like, what? When I'm up and down off of a ladder, and I hate ladders, trying to get this shit put on the shelves. I get done at 10 after 2, and you're gonna continue to ride my ass back at the baler and be like, I could have written you up for that because you were 10 minutes late. And I'm like, why are we after me tonight? Why? I just looked at him, and I think I got pissed off, and I said, then write me up then, and I walked away. I was just like, I was so done with him, and I'm just like, you know what, I just can't. I think he left me alone for the rest of the night after that, because I think he saw the look on my face, and I'm like, why are you harassing me? Like, just like, really, motherfucker? He made somebody else quit in a rage one night because he wouldn't stop riding their ass. Now, he was a bit of a hothead. I'll give him that. But I don't think he punched him. Like, I don't think the employee punched the manager. But I think they definitely got into a screaming match. And the employee got pissed and stormed out. Punched out and stormed out. And I'm like, I don't fucking blame him. he was like drunk on managerly power, and I'm just like, dude, you need to stop. All of us on night shift were like asking the other managers when they came in, they're like, when are you coming back to night shift? And they're like, oh, we're not. He's permanently on night shift. We're like, no, really, stop playing. And they're like, no, he's permanently on night shift now. And we're like, no. Please don't. But then we had to go on my mom was being pissy, and we had to go up to New Jersey for something, and when we came back, I could not sleep during the day, and I was a zombie, and I couldn't do it anymore, and I'm just like, I was at my breaking point. I'm like, yep, nope, I can't do this job anymore. They weren't paying me enough to put up with his bullshit. And Walmart was so... They never give you time to do anything. They're like, okay, we need you to do this, this, and this. Like, you didn't get pay increases unless you did specific computer training. But... And when you're going through orientation, they're like, oh yeah, if you want to come in on your day off, just let us know ahead of time, and you can clock in, and you can work on your extra training, and you'll get paid for the time that you're here. Or, if you really, really need to, you can probably take like a half an hour lunch instead of an hour, and you can probably get that caught up and stuff. And I'm like, okay. They didn't give us time to do our training at night because we had so much freight. We never had time to do the computer training. And you think, okay, big deal. Except the computer training, if you didn't get it done within a certain amount of time, you didn't get your raises. And the computer training had to be done right before we left. It had to be done the following week that I was going to be gone. And I'm like, okay, well, let me be proactive and try to get this done now, because I'm not going to be here next week. And I was trying to get it done. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you should be on lunch. And I'm like, well, I took a half-hour lunch, but this needs to get done. I'm not going to be here next week. You approved my vacation. He's like, well, I need you on the floor doing work. I don't need you back here doing this. He goes, I need you on the floor doing freight. And I'm like, the shit's got to get done. I'm like, this has to get done too. There's signs up all over the place back here. If we don't have this done by X date, we're not getting our raises. I need my raise. I need to get this done. Because at that point, Russell wasn't working anymore. He had his, he couldn't do it anymore with his anxiety, and we didn't know what was going on with him. It hadn't been diagnosed yet. Or it was in the process of being diagnosed or something. And so I was our only income. And I'm like, I have to get this done. I need this raise. No, I need you on the floor more. I'm like, all right, well, nobody better be bitching at me that this shit's not done when I'm not here next week. And then the one thing I was in the middle of doing, I'm like, I'm almost done, because then they make you take an assessment test at the end of watching the stupid videos to see if you actually watched them. The computer went down, or the computer program went down or crashed or something, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So I couldn't even finish it. So the stuff that I had spent, 20 minutes working on wasn't saved, and I was like, oh my god. So then I was pissed off about that. And then I think when I came back, they're like, yeah, you didn't do the thing. And I'm like, I tried to do the thing, but he wouldn't let me do the thing. So you need to go talk to him. I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then, it's so messed up because the training videos said one thing, but nobody followed the training videos. It was like, there was videos that you had to watch about rotating the food products on the shelves. There were videos that you had to watch about, okay, well, because working in dairy, you had to look at certain expiration dates, like on milk and stuff, and they're like, okay, well, when it's this number of days close to the expiration date, or if it's on the expiration date, you need to pull it. Or, we were supposed to be pulling it a couple of days ahead of time. So we're following the training. And then they yelled at us for following the training. And they're like, no, that's, we could have marked that down. I'm like, well, then why didn't you? You're the head of you're the ordery department merchandiser person. Why aren't you doing your job? You're not checking dates. You could have marked it down yourself. Like, so then we started pulling the stuff and keeping it in the cooler instead of putting it in the section where it went when it was expired, so that she could mark it down. And then it never got marked down, and we had to put it in the expiration section anyway. And I'm like, someone make it make sense. Please make it make sense. It was just... And I don't know how it was possible that the dairy cooler in the back of the store was more dangerous than the stockroom at AC Moore. Like, I almost impaled myself in that damn cooler. They had, the racks, where you open the glass door and you can see the racks where the milk is, and you pull one out and another one slides forward to you. Well, they're filled from the back in the cooler. And, there's milk crates everywhere. Because, depending, when you get the milk orders in, they come in the plastic crates. And so they're stacked, and some milk comes in cardboard boxes, depending on where it came from. So there'd be some milk on the shelves, and then there would be milk crates stacked up with, like, the gallon jugs and stuff. And they have this metal hook. It's a really funky looking L shape. So, let me try to find something to demonstrate this with. So it would be like, there'd be like a little handle piece, and then it extended out like that long. It was a couple feet long, maybe 3 feet long, like the length of a yardstick. Maybe not quite, maybe a little bit shorter, but kind of like that. So this was the handle where you held it, or you would hold it from this. I think this was a handle. There might have been a little tiny hook on the other end to grab the handles on the milk jugs to try to get them in the slots where they were supposed to go from the back of the racks. Well, it was very dark in the dairy cooler. That lovely apparatus I just crudely drew was a very dark metal. Not black, not brown, but some kind of combination thereof. It was like a dark metal color. It wasn't silver or shiny. It wasn't day glow orange or green or pink so that you could see it. It was that color, which was a similar color to the floor in the dairy cooler. And it was very dark in there because they had so much stuff stacked to the ceiling. So the lights weren't really filtering through on the side that you had to fill the milk on. They also ordered so much goddamn milk that there was nowhere for it to go. Like boxes of like almond milk and lactose milk, and when this was starting to become the thing, and soy milk and all that shit. So, the boxes were like stacked on the floor. So you kind of had to climb over again. And we had crates because stuff wasn't allowed to sit on the floor. So we had milk crates turned over so that the base was facing up so you could stack stuff on top of them. So I'm like kind of standing on a couple of milk crates trying to fill stuff back there. I'm like, there's no way this is cool. Like, somebody's gonna fucking get hurt. And I'm back there. Couldn't see. We were in a hurry. It was the last thing that we were doing for the night before we clocked out, or for the morning, because I worked overnight. And the way the racks were in the back, the milk hook thingy would get hung on one of the racks back there. It was so dark you couldn't see it unless you were really looking for it. I was in a hurry, wasn't looking for it. Didn't know where it was, because there was two. Sometimes you'd find one laying on the floor, sometimes you would find it over here. Like, it was never put in the same place twice. Someone decided to hang it on the back of this rack. Didn't see it. It was never hung there before. I, being in a hurry because we had to go clock out, walked right into the L that was sticking straight out. It slammed into my thigh. The front part of my thigh. Like, maybe front side part. I was in so much pain. I thought it had ripped my pants. Like, I thought I had been impaled on it. I wasn't, but it felt like it. And I was like, oh my god. Like, I was hobbling out of the cooler. Didn't know what the damage was at that point. At that point, I just want to go the fuck home. And you can't workman's comp anything unless you do it right then and there. There was no witnesses. I was the only one back there. I don't know if there was a camera back there or not. I got home and looked at the damage because I couldn't roll my pant leg up that high. And when I was changing, I'm looking at it, and there's this little white circle that's like maybe the tip of a pencil. It's not very big. It's like maybe like a little bit bigger in diameter than that. Okay. And I'm like, it was a little red around it. I'm like, that doesn't look too bad. Hurts like a bitch though, because I mean, it was metal. I walked into a metal bar that was sticking out. So I was like, alright. Well, the next day, I could hardly walk on it, and I'm like, oh god, what the hell? I look at it, it's now turning purple and black. Like, it was like blackish purple and red, and the very middle was still white. And I'm like, oh. You got a hairline fracture with no witness at work and couldn't do shit. Yeah, and then if you do try to claim workman's comp, or say, you know, you got hurt at Walmart, they immediately pull a drug test kit off of the counter because they sell them, and they make you do a drug test. I'm not lying. They full on drug test you right there in that second to prove that to see if you were under the influence of something, so they don't have to workman's comp you and say it was your own fucking incompetence and then fire you. And if they don't do it at the store, then they have to do it immediately at the hospital. And I was like, for insurance purposes, and I'm like, fucking shitting me? And I don't know. I imagine it was a bone deep bruise. For months after that, I was still having pain in that area. That bruise took forever to go away. This happened at Walmart because you did work there for a year or so. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Walmart is not, at store level, grunt hourly level, it's not that great to work for. People are like, oh yeah, you know, and they've been doing all these pay raises. Yeah, but you have to do... It's not a place that you can work at long term, and if you have worked there long term, then oh my god, you have the mental constitution of a superhero, because like, holy shit. When I started working there, down here, it was well before... It was in the well before times of everything shutting down and in the great minimum wage increase and stuff. There were so many people working there that qualified for food stamps because they weren't paying enough. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. Full-time job, working 40 hours a week, but you still qualified for food stamps if you were a single income, I guess, because they weren't paying you enough hourly. And Russell and I could have gotten them at one point, except they wanted everybody's income in the entire household. So we were living with his mom, and they counted his mom's income, and we were just shy because she was working part-time. Like, we were just over, and they wouldn't do it. We're like, okay. So we were like stuck in this shitty bill. So, but I was like, I know I wasn't under the influence of anything, and I didn't know how bad the bruise was at the time. I didn't know if it was just a bruise, because I'm a klutz. I walk into stuff. I trip over nothing. I have balance checks out of nowhere. Ask Russell. You know, if there's like an empty space next to me, I feel like I'm gonna fall sometimes when we're walking. I like have to anchor onto him so I don't fall over. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's probably just a bruise. And then when I saw the bruise, like, as it was coming out and I was still watching this white dot in the middle, I'm like, maybe we should have workman comped this or tried to, or filled out an accident report at the very least. And I'm just like looking at it, and I was still trying, like, it was a couple days after the fact, and I'm like, well, there's no way they're gonna do anything now. Like, I was, like, stuck. I was, like, you know, it's like you feel dumb for a potential injury that you can't even see, and they're like, yeah, like, they're gonna do that. And I'm like, I don't want to go through all of this stupid madness for just a potential bruise, but then it might have been like a bone deep problem bruise in the end, but I didn't know that when it first happened because it wasn't bleeding or anything. So I'm like, at least not like no blood gushing out, like a visible injury. So I was like, yeah, and I really didn't want to like take my pants down for them to look at. So it was totally straight, and it's just a freak thing, and you still couldn't do anything, and it still to this day hurts off and on. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like my whole neck situation when I workman's comped it at AC Moore, they were pissed at me because I didn't fill out the accident form right then and there when it first happened. And I'm like, I didn't know anything happened. Like, I didn't know something was wrong until the next day. Somebody yelled my name. I'm a klutz. I'm used to, like, moving and something hurting and me going, ow, out of reflex. And then I'm so busy, it's forgotten. Because I was wrapped so tight, I could have been hanging from the ceiling. Like, it was... I was under so much stress. That was when I was merchandising. Like, I said ow when it happened. I didn't even remember it happening right away. Somebody was standing next to me. Our classroom coordinator was in the entranceway with me trying to hang a display board, and she remembered me yelling ow. I thought I did it doing something else. Like, because I had been... I kid you not. We got these stupid ass fucking hard bullshit tween sandals in, like flip-flops. The boxes were as tall as me. I could stand inside the box and have it like come up to just above my boobs. I'm like 5'2"-ish, depending on how bad my scoliosis is that day and how straight I'm standing. But I'm like, I could stand in these boxes. I had to move these boxes by myself in the stockroom to get the right box because the store manager wanted them, you know, oh, by style, by size. They came in variations. It was just random what the fuck they sent us. And he's like, well, do you have any more of this? Do you have any more of that? And I'm like, I don't know. And he like wanted them like color striped. And I'm like, you understand that they just sent us X. And, so I was the boxes weren't necessarily heavy, like they were foam, but they were awkward and huge. I thought I moved wrong lifting them. And apparently that might have also contributed to it. But when I was in the entranceway, somebody at one of the front registers, the chick whose shit I was always fixing once I went to front end, she yelled my name, and I was pissed off because the manager had pissed me off, and he was having me doing something that was just so asinine that my brain just couldn't wrap its head around, and I was like, what? And I knew I shouldn't have because I was in front of customers, but I was so fucking mad. And she couldn't really hear me because we had an air curtain running in the entranceway to keep the AC and the heat in, so it was always blowing, and it was loud, and I was mad, and I was just like, what do you want? And when I flipped my head to the side because I was so mad, I yelled, ow. And she's like, oh, you okay? I was like, I think so. And then the next morning when I woke up, my neck was real stiff, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I was on truck duty that day, and like 2/3 into breaking down pallets, my head was slowly getting closer to my shoulder. Like, I could not hold my neck up. And then I had to start taking hand trucks full of candy, like chocolate melts. I don't know how much those boxes weighed. I think those boxes were like 10 to 20 pounds a piece. And I think I had like 8 to 10 on this hand truck. And by the time I dropped off the last box, my head was on my shoulder. Like, I could not pick it up. And I'm like, I can't. I was like, I have to go home. And then, they're like, well, what happened? And so then they had me fill out accident report. And they were pissed off that I didn't fill it out the day before. And I'm like, I didn't know I hurt myself the day before. I thought it was just a random ow. Like, I can't predict that this thing's gonna be a problem later. Like, it wasn't like I was in pain when I left yesterday. Like, what the fuck do you want from me? It's so stupid. Hit your right hip as well, and it's fucked, but it's my fault because I basically bench pressed a bookcase, one not built yet, in a box, and I felt that go wrong. And it had a team lift sticker on it, so no matter what, I like team lift stuff, and then there's nobody around to help you. Like, nobody will come help you when you need the help. It's like, hey, I've got something that I need help lifting, and then nobody shows up, and then you're almost given shit for asking for help, and it's like, it has a team lift sticker on it. And then after I had fucked my back off camera, he wasn't a manager, he was in between us and an assistant manager. I think he was some kind of lead or something. And he's like, stretch in front of the camera so that they can see you doing your pre-clock-in stretches that you're supposed to be doing. So that way, they can't say, well, you didn't stretch first. And I'm just like, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, they get mad at you because, somebody needs help with something. It's like, okay, they want you to help the customer. Customer's top priority. So then you stop what you're doing to help the customer, and then they get mad at you that you're not doing the other thing. And it's like, but you said to do this. And then they're like, we'll pass them off onto somebody else that's not doing anything. Nobody else is around. What do you want me to do? They need the help with this. And then I'm trying to get help to help them with this, and nobody will come and help me. So you're making this last like 5 times longer than it needs to be, instead of just saying, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes to help you. And, management doesn't want to be bothered to lift a fucking finger. And you can't find any of your other people to help you because they're either all ran away on breaks or they're busy with their own shit and nobody's answering you, and it just becomes a thing. Not a bad idea to stretch in front of the camera. Yeah, and he's like, just because there was cameras right by our clock-in thing, he's like, just do the stretching right in front of the camera so they can see you doing it, so they can't say you didn't do your pre-warm-up stretches. And I was like, this is so fucking ridiculous. It's just like, Walmart is like the king of loopholes if you work for them. I mean, I'm not I'm not dissing people that work there. I'm not. It's just the red tape, bureaucratic paperwork side. Like, I almost tried to work at Hobby Lobby because it's what I knew when we came down here. I knew the craft industry. Like, I didn't want to work at casinos down here. I had my fill of that in New Jersey. I didn't want to kiss any more people's asses. Because I probably should have gotten fired once for a comment I made. I mean, it wasn't a bad comment, but I wasn't taking this dude seriously. He's like, this punk ass kid comes up and he's like, yeah, I want to apply for $1 million credit line. And he was laughing when he said it. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. He goes, no, really, I want to apply for $1 million credit line. I'm like, okay, well, I need this, and this. Like, I didn't take him seriously at first, so I'm surprised I didn't get in trouble for it. But I think they gave him $500, $1,000 since it was his first credit line. And it boggles my mind that people take out that much money to gamble with. I'm like, you understand you have to pay this back, right? But rule of thumb is don't bet it if you can't lose it. So like the couple times that we played, well, I played a little bit. It was what there was to do at night on your day off when you're wide awake. The casinos were always open. So there was a couple times that we went over, we had dinner at the buffet at one of the places and stuff, but we never took more than we could miss at that time. I had won a couple jackpots here and there. Nothing tremendous. Like, I'd won 500 here. I think the largest jackpot I won might have been 1,200, 1,500. It was just enough where I had to pay taxes on it. Like, right then and there, and get W-2 paperwork and shit. But that didn't happen very often. But then I found out, you know, when we got down here, I was trying to look into, you know, what kind of company Hobby Lobby was to work for, because I didn't know anything about them then. And I was seeing murmurs online that, like, yeah, you can apply, but you have to call and hound them to get an interview. They don't just go through their applications. You have to call and like hound them daily to try to get an interview. And then when you do, there's this whole script that you have to learn for how you have to answer customers. You didn't win. I played quarter slots. Quarter slots is where I won most of my money. I think I hit a couple of 500 payouts. It was higher than the machine would pay out. At the time it was quarter payout. It wasn't the tickets. So it was like just giving me so many quarters. Like, I had like 3 gigantic buckets of quarters, and I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna get this up to the front or to the cashier? I had to wait for my mom to come find me because I was there with her. I was like, you gotta carry one of these. She's like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know how much this is. Another time it was enough where there wasn't enough quarters in the machine or something, and the bell went off and somebody had to come hand pay me. I did something on a nickel slot, and I have no idea what the fuck I did. I wasn't even sure how much the payout was for, because I had a little bit of a build up in there from me winning a little bit here and there, and then all of a sudden I had a bonus, and then when the bonus finished, like, the bell just started ringing and the light started flashing for an attendant, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I wasn't even sure how much I had won, because me and math, and me trying to nickel math, I was just like, I don't know, I think it ended up being like $700, and I was like, oh, okay. I was so confused. I think I've won like 3. We really haven't been that much here. There's not that many casinos here. There's one that's like just over the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. I don't think there's any casinos in Arkansas. There might be some slots at the track at Oaklawn. No, it's not Oaklawn. Oaklawn's California, I think. There's a track down near Hot Springs. I can't remember the name of it. They might have some slots there, maybe, but the state's very weird about gambling. A lot of places you can't buy alcohol past midnight on Saturday and until like midnight Sunday or like 7 a.m. Monday morning, depending on where you are in the state. Like, our town is very strange. Most of the town, you can't purchase alcohol after midnight on Saturday until like Monday morning. They don't serve alcohol at the restaurants in town, but if you go to, like, this is the town road, like, say this is the road that goes through town, and say this is the road that's the bypass that they put in. If you're out on the bypass, though, and you have a restaurant, you can serve alcohol out there now. It doesn't make any sense. But we went to the one just over the state line. It's like 40 minutes from the house, something like that. I won like 300 or 400 there, like maybe twice, doing penny slots, and not playing the max either. That's too rich for me, but I won enough to get some art supplies, so I was like, okay. But you can bet at the horse track, but gambling at the horse track's a little different than casino gambling or something. And they have a state lottery, but they call it a state lotto scholarship fund. And I'm like, you guys made the laws, right? Like, the state runs the lotto. So why do you have to call it a scholarship fund? Just adjust the fucking laws to allow the lottery tickets. And, like, you can get, like, scratch-offs, and I'm like, but it's still caught under the umbrella of the scholarship fund, and I'm just like, okay.
Well, it's so that they have less protest.
Yeah, we're deep in the Baptist Bible Belt, so.
Yeah.
Or at the top edge of it, maybe, but yeah. So you were invited to a buffet. It wasn't about the gambling, but you're there, so why not? You've only been to Twin Rivers and Rhode Island, so super close to where you used to live. Yeah, we keep getting, we know where the mother-in-law has been, because her sister is a casino fiend, and we will get advertisements in the mail from all of the places that they've gone to on this gallivanting around the country, for everywhere that they've signed up for a rewards card. So we've gotten a couple of the local ones, and I was like, alright. Well, then we started getting ones from casinos in Michigan, and then casino in Louisiana, and then a casino in maybe Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, and Missouri, and I'm just like, I don't think we've gotten any from Florida. I don't think there's that many casinos in Florida. I know Hard Rock Cafe or Hard Rock Hotel is there. We might have gotten a couple from Hard Rock. Maybe. They haven't been there that often, though. It got to the point where we were getting so many, I was just ripping them up, because she doesn't have the money to go to these places, and the advertisement was gonna be done by time she got back up there anyway. So I'm just like, 'cause it was like a special like holiday offer or something, and she wasn't gonna be out of our area and up there. And I'm like, yeah, she doesn't need to see that. She doesn't need to see that. She doesn't need to see that, because she'll go and she'll do these free offer thingies. Oh yeah, Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods, they would go to all the time. Like, we'll get these stupid advertisements for, free gift for our players this weekend, you know, with your loyalty card, like, free pot and pan set, free luggage set. She would go and get this shit, and it was cheap shit, you know, like, just stuff to get people in the door, and then they're like, well, I'm here, I might as well play. And it's like, it's luggage that, like, falls apart within, like, 2 uses and stuff, and she just kept bringing all of this shit home, like, oh, here's a plate set, and I'm like, stop. Here's a cheap-ass knife set, and I'm just like, stop bringing this stuff home. We don't need it. We just end up giving it to the church resale shop that they sell it for like $1, $2 or something. I'm like, stop bringing this shit home. We have no room for it. He went to Mohegan Sun for an outside concert, but casinos during. Yeah, like, I used to like to go, but then, you know, I was also going during when I was having a mental break, and that was not a good idea, and I did get myself into a little bit of trouble. So, when I started to try to be a bit more responsible when I did go, I was starting not to go that often, and then when I was going, like, I was only spending like $5 or $10. So, like, 40 at the most if it was like my birthday or something, but then when we moved down here, really haven't been. The casinos here are on the Indian reservations, so there's a part of the Cherokee reservation just over the Oklahoma border, so that's who runs that one, but it's not the same as the ones back in New Jersey. I mean, it's alright, but I wasn't really feeling it, and we didn't really have the money to go, so it was a rare occasion that we went down here. But I don't think I've been in, oh gosh, 2-3 years? Yeah, it is. Like, we'll get a lottery ticket every so often when it's, like, obscenely high, because I'm like, well, somebody's got to win, right? And Russell's like, yeah, but you know we're not gonna. And I'm like, yeah, but we definitely won't if we don't at least have one ticket. So, like, when like Mega Millions gets stupidly high or something, we try to get a ticket. Yeah, I know. But somebody's gotta hit it, right? So, if we can scrounge together, like, the $2 to get a ticket, we will. We don't always have it, but... And then I see these stories about people that have, like, hit, like, lotto jackpots, like, large lotto jackpots, like, 3 or 4 times. I'm like, okay, see, there needs to be a cool down period. Based on the amount of when you can win it again. Like, leave something for the rest of us. But, you know. I mean, kudos to them, but... I mean, I wouldn't... I say this, but I probably would when it gets to be holiday season around here. Like, I could probably tolerate working for Michaels again. I mean, I never worked for Michaels, worked for AC Moore, but, I mean, I kind of miss... I miss it and I loathe it at the same time because I know what, at the time, there wasn't that many DIYers, you know, as there are now. Or at least, you know, there wasn't that much, like, DIY for content creation and stuff when I was working. Internet was still kind of new and a little tiny baby deer on wobbly legs. Like, I never had internet access until like 1999, and it was still kind of, it wasn't necessarily commonplace in houses yet. And it was still very much dial-up and stuff. So, I mean, there wasn't like, I don't think YouTube was really a thing hardcore yet or anything, like, and stuff. So, you know. He had one guy recently, guy won huge, because he liked the color of the ticket, so he bought that one. God damn. Oh, was it like scratchy ticky? Instead of like lotto number ticky? I've done some scratch offs. I've not won shit off of scratch offs. I think the most I ever won off a scratch off ticket was maybe $10. And I think it was like a bingo scratchy. Might have been $10, if that. You're just over here like, well, what if I just get in my car and go anywhere? Who cares? And start a life, and it doesn't feel like you can do that in this world. Yeah, like Russell and I are trying to figure out our end goals here. Like, I know that sounds dumb, but like we don't, how to word this. We've spent so much of our lives doing for other people, right? Like, I always felt like I had to take care of my dad, or he didn't want his mom to be alone, so then we came down here, and just like kind of like not necessarily mother henning, but watching over someone else and trying to help them keep their shit together, that, you know, we're like, oh god, we're gonna be how old? And we haven't really had the chance or the opportunity to do very much for us. So we don't really, we're kind of like, what do we do? So we've been trying to figure out potential end game goals here for, you know, it's a little morbid to think about, but there's going to be a point at some point where we're not having to shepherd or mother hen anyone. So, you know, we're trying to you know, brainstorm, spitball potential ideas of things that we may want to do. I mean, it depends on so many things going on when we get there. You know, will we still have this property in our possession? If we do, you know, what's the real estate market going to look like? Are we going to stay here? Or are we going to try to up and move? You know, it depends on if he's been approved for disability, how that's going to go, and if he hasn't been, you know, what things are going to look like. So, and, you know, where do we want to go? I can't drive. I'm sure I could in an absolute emergency, but it overwhelms me. It gives me a fucking anxiety attack. So I would need to be somewhere that has public transportation, or at least, you know, within reasonable bike riding or walking distance to grocery store at least. I mean, there's a lot of grocery deliveries now, but it gets expensive getting that delivered. But, you know, we're trying to think of, okay, well, if we move, where do we want to be? What are our requirements for dealing with things? You know, do we want to do the apartment renty thing? Do we want to do the tiny house thing and just get a little piece of land if we can get it to work within that area's building codes? You know, what state do we want to be in? But, I mean, public transportation in South Jersey, it was kind of overcrowded at times, depending on the time you were traveling. And sometimes the buses were a little slow, but it was a lot cheaper than car insurance. But, I mean, you did have to wait around for buses and in the weather and stuff. So, I mean, it did have its drawbacks. Like, there wasn't, like, a bus, like, every 10 minutes. But, I mean, it was good enough where I could get around if I had to. And that's what we were using to get back and forth to work. I mean, it was an option, and it was much cheaper than trying to, you know, taxi cab and stuff, and at some points it was faster than getting a cab if the cabs were overwhelmed and there weren't that many drivers working. But even now, I think I would rather bus than, like, do Uber or Lyft, just because of the stories I've heard about, you know, things, drivers not being completely professional and things. And I know that there's probably a lot of decent drivers out there, but still, as a female, and if you're traveling alone, you have to think about these things. So, you know, it's like, there's no public transportation in our town. There's half-assed public transportation in Fayetteville. And I say half-assed because I don't think it runs during the summer. I could be wrong about that. Or it's an extremely reduced route during the summer because it's mainly for, like, the college kids. So there's not that much action on there when school's out for summer. Kind of thing. So it's not normal public transportation. You don't have to be a college kid to use it. But, it's not as easy as some other places. And then, you know, if we do end up getting property, we have to think about, okay, well, how much is property tax in the area? You know, what are taxes like in general here? Because some places charge you tax on your personal, like, on your vehicles and stuff, not just the property. Like, I think here we have to pay taxes every year on personal property. Like, not just, like, the fuck? That looks like some kind of piece of plasticky string. It was sharp, whatever it was. It came out of the pad. It was stabbing me. But, you know, there's a lot to think about. You know, how do they handle car insurance? What is car insurance in this state? Is it expensive? Is it manageable? Is it... Property tax is, like, the biggest thing. But, yeah, they tried to do an all-female Uber in Massachusetts, but people cried sexism. Like, it wouldn't have to exist if women weren't afraid of... Yeah, like, that's the thing, you know? It's like, if you weren't creepy and didn't make us feel so jumpy, like, we have reasons to feel this way. Like, you know, you all don't... I mean, I know things can happen to guys too. And I don't know if we just don't hear about it because guys are embarrassed about reporting it, or if it just doesn't happen as often. But it doesn't... I don't think it happens as much where, you know, you're in, like, a car service and you never make it to where you were supposed to go because your driver decided to be a shitty McShitface and do things they weren't supposed to do. Sorry, I'm trying to say this stuff without getting in trouble because this is also going to YouTube later. But you kind of can't say some of the words. You have to dance around it. But, you know, like... It's... People can argue all they want. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen to guys. I know guys can have their own situations. But it's like just this constant thing that just like sits on your shoulder as a female, where it's like you're constantly trying to be aware of who's around you. Is someone walking behind me? I'm not comfortable with this person walking up behind me. I'm going to cross the street so I can keep an eye on them so they're not directly behind me. Like, you know, it's like, oh, is there any alleyways here that I have to, you know, be careful of? And, you know, is this person following me, or are we just going to the same general area? It's like, oh, let me duck in this store for a minute and browse and see if they follow me in, or see if they're hanging around outside. Like, you know, it's things that we have to think about sometimes if we're traveling by ourselves. Like, it can be really nerve-wracking out there. Maybe more so in some areas than others, but, you know, it still kind of sits in the back of your brain at times. Like, I mean, there'd be times where I'd be waiting for the bus, and if somebody else is at the bus stop waiting, I'm like 3 or 4 feet to the side, because, like, I don't want to be, like, right up next to them. And I'm like, usually they were screaming on their cell phones anyway, but, you know, that's something else entirely. But you know, you didn't want to not have a cell phone with you if you were traveling on your own. Just in case there was a problem. I'll tell you, even when Russell and I were traveling, like some of the rest stops that we stopped at, most of them were okay. Most of them felt okay. There was a couple, though, in state that felt kind of sketchy. And I'm just like, ugh, I don't like it here. I don't know, like, it just didn't feel right. Like, I can't really say there was anything, like, wrong on the surface. It just didn't feel right. And I know that sounds stupid. And like, oh, you're just being a stupid paranoid person. But certain areas give you an aura to them. And, you know, it's like, and like, we'll both have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, you'll wait for me right here? Because, like, you know, I don't want to come out and have you not standing here. So sometimes I would take a little bit longer to try to figure out if he had come out yet. So I'm not walking out there and just standing there alone, because he'd have the keys to the car. And I'm like, yeah, don't like this. I'm like, if I'm not back in X amount of minutes, come looking for me. Because there was just this one, and it wasn't like it was open, like it was wide open, like it wasn't like sketchy trees or anything. Like there was like woodedness around like the back side of the rest area, but it was a huge parking lot. You know, maybe there weren't that many lights. We were there one time at night, and it was really freaky when we were there at night. We don't like traveling through a lot of this area in the dark, especially on the interstate, because there's no lights, and it's very mountainy here. Trying to get through part of the interstate, and it's very disorienting when you're trying to maneuver in a couple spots, so don't really like it. But the one time even when we were there during the day, bright sun, there wasn't that many people at the rest area. Maybe that's why it felt sketchy, because there wasn't that many people coming and going, and excuse me, like it was still open, it was still functioning, but it also felt deserted at the same time, and I'm like, don't like this. Yeah, I'm a little paranoid too at times, not all the time, but sometimes I'll get in a mood where I'm like, I don't like this. It's probably perfectly fine, but I'm just like, I don't like this. Something will just set me off. Like a smell in the air, or like a car parked in a weird place, kind of by itself, or I'll just get into a thing where I'm like, let's go. Just don't. Like there was a couple of times where we were gonna stop for gas, and we saw the gas station that we were gonna stop at, and I'm like, we don't need it that bad. We can go a little bit further. Let's go down to like the next couple of exits, because like some of them were just so like banjo playing creepy. Just call it self-aware. Being at Disney, you felt super chill, but around yeah, it gets a weird vibe here at night too. Because, you know, living in South Jersey and the casino industry being 24 hours and stuff, and all kinds of shift workers coming and going from there. I mean, it's like a small city of people just working there. Like, they could be their own little city of just the employees for the casinos. And at least while I was there. And, So there was always buses going past the end of our street because there was a bus stop at the end of it. And so you'd hear like the squealing brakes of the buses stopping to drop people off or pick people up, or there'd be sirens going. There'd be planes going over because we lived in the flight path of the Atlantic City International Airport at the time, and there was also a National Guard fighter wing out there. So there would be fighter jets taking... Ooh! Okay, well that just happened. The cap on the thing went flying. There'd be fighter jets taking off, and there was just noise. There was just noise. There's noise, there was traffic. Here? Once it gets to be... I mean, there's traffic now, and there's traffic during the day, but it gets to be like 9, 10 o'clock at night. There's some nights you could hear a fucking pin drop outside, and it's not that well lit. There's not that many street lights. It gets creepy out here. And, like, there's nobody around, but I'm still freaked out as hell. And I'm like, that tree just moved funny. and stuff. And I'm like, what was that sound? And then, you know, you get the blood-curdling howls from the coyotes here at times if they're out hunting. Man, that is a sound. That is a sound. When you're a suburban girl... and you didn't grow up with that sound, oh boy. There was a couple of times where we were outside with the dogs in the front yard, and with the way the mountain range is around us, we're sort of sitting in not really, I don't know if we're really a valley, but we're like kind of on like a downslope area. Like you can look down the one street in front of our house and you're like, where's the horizon? And then you're like, I see trees. And then you're like, oh. And then if you look up at the top of the trees, then you see sky. So, I mean, we're kind of in like a little valley. But it is creepy as fuck. Like, hearing them hunting. Like, you'll hear a blood-curdling cry and howl. And you'll take that sound. I mean, to me, it's just, it's freaky. And then all of a sudden, you'll hear multiple howls chime in. And then you hear them yipping, and then the barking, and you know that they're going after something, or they've successfully gone after something and have dinner now. And we don't hear them often, but we do hear them, and they get really close to town sometimes. Some people have seen them in town. Apparently we have some foxes too, but I've never seen a fox. But my mom had wanted a chicken at one point. And I'm like, you do understand we'd have to critter-proof the coop and the pen, right? Like, because we do have wildlife that would eat it. You hear the coyotes. We have an owl pair that comes and goes sometimes, that we'll hear sporadically. Russell heard them last night. Those fuckers are loud. You can hear them talking to each other and communicating. They like to sit on the steeple of the church across the street from us some nights. We've not seen a bear. There were reports that a black bear was traveling with her cubs through town at one point near us, but we never actually laid eyes on them. Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, you don't fuck with the bears. Like, no. It's like, oh my god, leave me alone. And, you know, it's like, no. That would freak me the fuck out. I'd be like, I'm not going outside alone. As it is here, I won't open the front door after a certain time if I'm the only one in our room. I won't do it. If I'm the only one up, Like the cat that likes to freeload food off of us, our outdoor stepchild. Sometimes he'll show up at like 2 or 3 in the morning well after Russell's gone to bed, and he's like out there meowing and begging for food, and I'm like, buddy, I'm really scared to open the door, which is ridiculous at times, but we also do have some wildlife around here, and I've got this irrational thought in my head that something's going to come out of the dark shadows on the sides of the house and get me because I've stepped outside by myself. But a bear broke your porch because it got spooked by a jogger. Yeah, like that is crazy. Like, I'd be like, oh shit. Like, I couldn't do that. As it was, there was a freaking deer, man. at the state park right down the street from us. Apparently she had a baby, and she was on the warpath at the state park, and she was going after all of the people that were walking through that section of the walking trail. And it was a paved walking trail, but she was pissed, and she didn't want anyone coming in with X amount of feet. She was charging people. She was charging people's dogs that were on leashes. And I'm like, oh, damn. Like, people thought that she was, like, going crazy, like, that there was something wrong with her. And people, like, and other people, like, no, she's just protecting her little one. She's got a baby in there somewhere. You just can't see it, but it's there. But she just kept running. She had no idea it was bear in your yard. Oh, God. That's, like, even worse, right? Like, not knowing. But, crazy. So, I think, I was hoping to get this done today, but I got started later than I wanted to. So we got the grass done around in here. I don't think I'm going to go too much heavier on the grass in there because I want some of that rocky stuff to show through, and it doesn't look too bad. Tomorrow, we're going to move on to the leaves and stuff on the tree, and then I think that might be done. I'm not sure if this tree's getting highlighted. I did throw a little bit of green in because it felt weird just doing the yellow ochre, and I think he had thrown in the tiniest amount of sap green in there too. And I know this isn't sap green, but either all my greens were way too light or all my greens were way too dark. And I didn't feel like digging through the bag of the mini roving thingies to try to find the right green because that would have taken me like 20 minutes. So I just kind of went with the light green color. But it kind of works when we mixed it in with the ochre and just kind of toned it down a little bit. I really didn't want to introduce a brand new color just then, but, whatever. I think there's 2 different tones of leaves that are going on the tree tomorrow. I think there's like a reddish brown, so we'll use like this color that we used for like our shoreline in here. We'll stick that as our dark color on there, and then I think he comes back with the same ochre and like green combo on top of the tree leaves. I could be wrong about that. It might just be this color. I'll have to see when we get there. I might add some yellow ochre just to help tie it together. But, so that's where we are. Oh, let me bring it down a little bit. So that's where we are so far with this one. I'm still not crazy about this one. I don't know if it's the color palette or just like the setup on it. I don't know. This one's been a challenge for me. This is one of the few ones that I'm not in love with that he's done. But I said we would do the season, and I am trying to. There's still the one that we might not do, but I'm almost leaning towards trying to at least do a sketch of it and see if I can get the sketch to look okay. And if I can get the sketch to look okay, we might try it. I might have enough colors now where we might potentially try it, and that's the cowboy one. But I don't know. I really got to think about that one. I didn't go into this planning on doing that one, but there's just so much red and so many mini shades of red in it that I only have 2 shades of red yarn, so I have to see what things look like when we get there and if it looks like I can make it work. But let's see, is anybody I know doing anything right now? No, and like I said before, I don't really want to take you guys to someone I don't know, because I don't know them, and I don't know if I really want to take you there because I don't know anything about them. I haven't had the chance to really look at too many other streamers lately, so I've just been kind of head down and getting my own shit dealt with. But I have to go deal with dinner. So that's the plan for tomorrow, is getting this tree done. If we get done early enough, we'll start a sketching session, planning session for the next couple. If we don't, then that can wait till next week. But, so that's the plan for tomorrow, is to work on this guy. So, thank you guys for hanging out with me and chatting this afternoon. It's been lovely. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day off, boss. I hope you guys have a good start to your work weeks, because some of you, I think, are going back to work tomorrow, tonight. I don't know. Tomorrow's Monday. It's a new week. Hopefully things will go okay for you. And hopefully we'll get the bank situated tomorrow morning, or there's gonna be all kinds of words with the person who was on vacation when they come back tomorrow. I can feel it. But yeah, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Don't forget to follow the socially do's down below. And until next time.